Venus de Horreum, A Tale of Two Cities. It was seeing them drive by in Daddy's new convertible that drove Blaire Todd over the edge. Skidding her rear wheel as she stopped her bike, she pulled her phone from its holder on her handlebars and texted, "Seeing red," and hit send. "Now or never," she immediately tapped with her thumbs, again hitting send. Her third text seemed to write itself as she messaged, "Meet me in the horse barn," and text 4 followed on text 3 like two thoroughbreds and a racetrack photo finish. "Bring a condom, noon." A 4-word finale which ended her mini text tirade. Shaking her head, she mumbled to herself, "Blowing up your phone, ain't I, Nate? And today I'll do more than just blow you. I'll blow your mind, too," as she cleared Nathan Boyes from her phone and switched to her mother's number. Blaire's thumb again tapped a lightning speed staccato that produced, "Going to the barn to ride Venus, will be back before dinner, will text when leaving," which she started to send, but reined herself in long enough to add a unicorn emoji and 3 hearts before sending one single text to her mother, Maura. "Won't blow up your phone, Mommy," she whispered to self, emphasizing the operative word your and slipping her phone back in its holder before standing on the pedals in a pulse of impassioned propulsion. Blaire turned into Francis Marion High, cut through the near-empty parking lot, and made her way to the Cedar River bike trail that connected her to the Kirkwood horse barn where Venus was stabled. "Home of the Swamp Fox," she said derisively, laughing at the Fighting Swamp Fox logo as she passed the football field scoreboard. "Loser," she added, extending the word and smiling as she basked in a moment of sadistic pleasure, remembering her Xavier High Saints hard-fought JV soccer victory over Marion's Lady Foxes the week before. "Suck it, suckers," she added in a deep, gruff voice as she headed south on the trail. Her phone beeped and Blaire slowed enough to read Mom's message. "Thanks, let me know when you're headed home. Have a good ride," a message to which Maura had likewise attached heart emojis. Despite herself, Blaire laughed at the unintentional double entendre of her mother's final sentence, and her emotional seesaw rose from its below-ground anchor of anger as a minuscule portion of the love and respect she felt for her abused mother minutely lifted her soul. Blaire's phone again beeped as she continued southward down her path, her speed, like her anger, abating as her warring emotion of love for Mom, lust towards Nate, and a hate-fueled desire to rebel against Daddy battled within her. She slowed, whether due to fractious feelings warring within that had prompted her to arrange the assignation where she would metaphorically screw her father by screwing her boyfriend, or whether to read the incoming text, an unclear binary in the mixed emotion of her mind. "OMG," Nate's text read. "At school with car. On my way. Don't tell the cops. Be there by noon. Love, love, love." Blaire stopped long enough to text, "Don't get pulled over, XXOO," as Nate's response revived her romantic revolve, and she hit send before continuing on her journey southward. "So weird," she said aloud, referencing Nate's comment concerning access to the family car. "Who ever heard of 14-year-olds being able to drive?" "Not in Chicago, that's for sure," she thought, shaking her head as she pedaled onward. The wide bike trail provided a pleasant and safe path to Venus, and as Blaire cycled downward, her mind skipped back and forth between the friends she'd left behind in Chicago when Daddy had surprised her and her brother Max with the wonderful news that he'd been selected as president of Cedar Rapids Sisters of Mercy Catholic University. News that had been a complete shock to her and her brother. News that meant they'd all be in a new home far, far away before school started. "What?" Blaire, "When? And I mean, what? When did this happen? I didn't even know you were looking outside Chicago." "Where?" "Not that far, sweetie," her mother Maura had replied. "It's due west about 250 miles. Plenty close to Chicago to come back and visit." "But why didn't you tell us?" Blaire had asked, her voice taut as she fought the inner battle between expressing her anger and disappointment, her voice a repressed petulance whose tone hinted at the hurt and anger that raged within, her presentation of expression a tightrope walk between a display of pique and the properly respectful tones she'd been programmed to display. "This isn't fair." "I didn't tell you," her father had replied, "because it was a long shot. I know moving to a new town right before you start high school will be rough, but we'll come back and visit. I mean, my parents are here. We'll come back holidays and such. We have you enrolled in Xavier High and Maximilian at Regis. I know you were really looking forward to starting at Francis with Sally, but you'll make new friends. Sometimes we have to make hard choices, and this was one of those times. The Lord will provide." "The Lord will provide," she snarked aloud in the present, her head bobbing back and forth as she wrote. "Yeah, he provided you with Ms. Bitch-Face Fuckfest," she whispered to herself as she turned off the Cedar River Trail and wound her way to the Kirkwood College horse barn. Blaire leaned her bike against a wall, grabbed her phone from its holder, and pulled open the horse barn's squeaky hinge door. "Nate!" she exclaimed with quiet intensity. "Nate! Nate? Not here yet, huh?" she added with a sigh, pulling her phone from her pocket and checking for a text message update. "Thought you were primed and ready, boy," she added, her face displaying a sardonic half smile. Blaire slid her phone into her right rear shorts pocket, then removed a folding knife from the corresponding front, grabbed an apple from the communal basket that provided treats with which to feed the horses within, and made her way forward to her horse's stall. "Venus," she declared, speaking as one might to an infant as she wrapped the horse's neck in a loving embrace before cutting a piece of the apple from the hole and feeding it to Venus. "How you doing, sweetie?" she asked, passing the horse and cooing to her. "My Veenie Weenie's always here for me." "You hot to trot?" she asked, her face a beacon of joy. "I know I am," she half sang, half said. "You're the only good thing in this podunk place," she added, the joy in her voice having sublimated into the ether. She dutifully grabbed a brush and stroked Venus. "Such a sweetie. Love you," she whispered, the statement sincere but subdued. "I always wanted a horse," Blaire said, the upbeat returning. "But in Chicago?" she asked, cutting off a bit of apple and feeding it to a greedy Venus. "No way." Walking around the horse, stroking down her flanks and along her top, Blaire reminisced. "You were Daddy's consolation prize when he plucked us from home and said," here Blaire altered her voice to that of a stereotypical male gruffness, "Hey, guess who's the new president of Sisters of Mercy Catholic University? We're moving to Marion, Iowa." "Marion, Iowa," Blaire said, halting her horsey ministrations to shrug before adding with multiple shakes of her head, "Where we never see Grandpa Don or Grandma Diane anymore, where I knew absolutely no one and hated it." And that was before he started screwing Sonia, his secretary, dumped Mom and left us in the lurch. Ta-da! Sighing, Blaire cuts another piece of apple and feeds it to Venus. Chicago had everything. All my friends, great places to eat, and Grandpa and Grandma. Funny, looking back on how Daddy abandoned his own mother, it's obvious that all his talk about God and service was just that. Talk, you know? She paused before whispering inconsolably, "His mother is adrift and we just sailed away." Blaire cut the remaining bit of apple in half and again fed Venus. "I don't know what would have happened to me if it wasn't for you. No friends, no clue as to how different life is in Iowa as compared to Chicago, but at least I could leave my troubles behind and go ride." "Yep, Daddy knew I love horses and Daddy got me one. Venus de Horreum," she said whimsically. "Good old Equus on the half shell. Here, sweetie," she said with a smile, holding the last bit of apple for Venus. "I'll get more," she added, walking from the stall to the basket and cutting off another bit. Of course, that was before Sonia, or as I like to call it, BS. Like BC, only darker, she asked, lifting the apple bit to Venus's mouth. "That bitch had the balls to strut around our house in that bareback, low-front, slit-skirt, translucent dress at the Sisters of Mercy Christmas party. I bet you she was stroking Daddy's pole when the ball dropped New Year's Eve. God, how many staff parties did we host when she's right there in our house? Bitch, home-wrecking bitch," Blaire concluded, cutting off and feeding an apple bit to Venus. "Hey," she said, extending the word, "did you know there's a movie about a boy who stabs out horses' eyes?" she asked tentatively, reaching back in her memory to Sally's basement where the two had watched the ancient movie in a spellbound state of simultaneous attraction and repulsion. "It's got that old guy playing a psychiatrist. You know that guy? One of Elizabeth Taylor's exes. In the movie, this boy stabs out the eyes of defenseless horses." Blaire pauses in her conversation with Venus, takes a moment to regroup, and uses the moment to cut off a bit of apple. It's terrible, and nobody knows why he did it. And this psychiatrist guy, Dyson. Anyway, Lizzie's ex-husband digs down with him in therapy, and it's all because this boy, Strange? I think his name's Alan Strange. Hang on, she adds, rolling her eyes in a brief peak of self-contempt as she references Equus via her phone and mumbles incoherently as she reads, "Equus! Oh my God, that's the name of the movie," she says, shaking her head and reading further. "Dr. Dysart. I was close. And Alan Strang. Pretty good, right? Strang. Anyway, this Strang kid would masturbate while horseback riding. Yuck! I mean, yes, riding you can be, well, stimulating, but this Strang kid would literally masturbate while riding the horses bareback. Yuck. I mean, he'd jerk off while riding the horses naked, and the horses' manes would tear his pecker up. Literally, ugh! So we find out about all this crazy stuff, like how he's jerking off to horses. Please, God, don't let Nate be doing stuff like that. And that Alan's dad is a hypocritical asshole, just like Daddy, telling Alan to be good and upright and morally straight and all that horse shit that Daddy loved to tell me before he dumped us and shacked up with Jezebel. Blaire pauses, twists her head to the side, cuts off another bit of apple, looks Venus in the eyes and sighs deeply before feeding her the next bite. Anyway, the reason Alan blinds the horses is because he sees his dad with a prostitute and just loses it. Goes and stabs the horse's eyes out and just goes nuts. And this Dicer guy helps him figure out why, she concludes, again looking Venus in the eyes with her head tilted before cutting off more apple and feeding her horse. I always thought it was so horrible doing that to innocent horses, she asks, again repeating the cutting of the apple and feeding the bit to Venus. He really should have stabbed out his father's eyes, don't you think? She asks as a squeaky door hinge announces the arrival of someone else within the horse barn. Nate, she exclaims, her face alight. Thank God, she says before pulling her top off and asking, ready to ride?